We do have a very vocal, it's a small but very vocal group here in Santa Clarita that you know doxes us, follows us, shows up at school board meetings, can rally the troops. So we do have that element here in Santa Clarita too. They are um, strong proponents of, I don't know, everything that's antithetical to, the core American values.
On Thursday, a far right town hall exposed the growing push to reshape public education led by Moms for Liberty and conservative activists. The event was hosted by attorney Greg Britton and featured Karen Frost, chair of Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty, and fire teacher Jessica Tapia. They discussed book bans, LGBTQ plus policies, and their efforts to take over school boards. Former teacher Jessica Tapia, fired from a school in Riverside County for refusing to follow California laws protecting transgender students, defended her stance as a religious conviction.
And as for the whole pronoun stuff, I had to really look deeper into what that is. And that was essentially asking me to lie to students about who God made them to be. And then, of course, the lying to parents was just so outlandish to me. So I knew I had a huge decision to make. I actually ended up going off on stress leave for a few months because I didn't know right away what decision to make. I needed to have patience and take time with the Lord to really come to that clear decision and see what he was calling me to do. So at the end of those 3 months of stress leave, he had made it very clear that I was to speak the truth and say, I'm ready to come back to work, but there's a few things you've asked me to do that I cannot do. I won't forego my Christian beliefs to comply with these transgender directives. And I quoted scripture when I emailed my district why I couldn't do those things. And they then held a religious accommodation meeting with me, which honestly felt much more like I'm blanking on the word. Basically, they were like challenging and questioning me to determine if I was truly a Christian, which was really odd for me, considering that I'm assuming none of them were, since they were so surprised that I would not just follow these directives. And so at the end of that religious accommodation meeting, they did ask one really important question, and they said, is there anything else we need to know about that you can't do in your position as a PE teacher because of your faith? And I said, well, yes, you should probably know now, since I'm in a unique position as a PE teacher. I oversee a girls' locker room, that I won't be allowing any boys in my girls' locker room. And here's what's really crazy. This was over 2 years ago, right? So I've learned a lot more than I knew then. I didn't know at that time that California had a law, AB 1266, that says a student can enter the facility or locker room or sport with that which they identify with. And so I had no idea when I let them know that I was basically telling my school district, I'm not going to be following a California law in my role as a PE teacher. Again, I didn't even know it was a law at that time. But of course, huge issue to them, right? Because they knew the law. And I, as a teacher, just told them I won't be following that law. And anyways, so at the end of that, basically a few days later, I get my termination letter. And mind you, I'm a tenured PE teacher.
Jessica Tapia said that she's keeping tabs on a transgender child who is using the locker room at the school she was fired from.
So no, the policies are absolutely still in place. As a matter of fact, Harupa Valley JUSD is back in the news as of the last couple of weeks, because they do currently have a boy who is part of the girls' track team, varsity girls' track, and he is entering the girls' private changing spaces. I'm getting several messages from parents. I've even heard from a coach and even a student. And he is #1 in the nation for girls triple jump. So again, Harupa is back in the news for holding true to those transgender policies.
The event also highlighted Trump's recent executive orders on education, including a policy restricting transgender athletes and a yet-to-be-enforced order banning so-called radical indoctrination. Speakers at the event hoped that by cutting off federal funding to public schools, the Trump administration could force California schools to comply with his executive orders.
Obviously, the federal government is under new management, thank God. And Donald Trump has issued 2 executive orders that are potentially helpful in this regard. One is specifically on the allowing the boys and men into women's and girls' sports in their private facilities. And they've actually started enforcing that one. They've moved to cut off federal funds to schools in Maine over the issue. So maybe you can get them to cut off federal funds to the district, and that might get their attention. And the other is it's not operational, it's not actionable, but it is an order ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, and it's to all the relevant federal agencies are to come up with a policy within 90 days of how they can bring that about.
Jessica Tapia praised Rebecca Friedrichs, a well-known anti-union activist. Tapia and Friedrichs have shared a platform before. In September 2023, both spoke at the Rally for Parental Rights in Los Angeles, an event organized by far-right groups and featuring Karen Frost, who debuted the Los Angeles County chapter of Moms for Liberty at the rally. At the rally, Friedrichs criticized teachers' unions in stark terms, calling them the education mafia.
The teaching profession has been hijacked by so-called teacher unions. They call themselves teacher union because that's how they get any kind of attention. That's how they tried to get people to trust them. They are not teachers, and they are not a union in the traditional sense. I call them the education mafia. A friend of mine said I should apologize to the mafia because the mafia loves America. The unions do not. They hate America and they hate you. Today, I want to help you to understand that the people behind everything you're complaining about today, the people behind the corruption in our legislature, it's the unions. The people behind the nasty pornographic books in your school, it's the unions. The people behind critical race theory, it's the unions. The people destroying America, it's the unions. And the teacher unions are the worst of them all. Let's not give them the privilege of being called teacher anymore.
And if you have, I'm sure many of you have heard of Rebecca Fredericks. Thanks to her court case, teachers no longer have to opt into the corrupt teachers union. We have the freedom to not be a part of that democratic union that pushes and supports woke gender ideologies in the schools. We can choose alternative unions like Christian teachers unions and so forth. But
Frest celebrated conservative gains in local school boards, especially in the Hart District, where she says their new supermajority is pushing policies on parental rights and so-called traditional values.
We have a supermajority on our high school district. It's a 4-to-1 supermajority of conservatives. And I have a very close working relationship with our trustees there. I was just at a meeting earlier, campaigned with them, worked with them. I had a meeting yesterday with one of the other trustees. So they really lean into us as a support and advocacy group for them. So it has really changed because a year and a half ago, we had a 3-to-2 liberal to conservative numbers. And so we were able to fight really hard. And now we have a very strong supermajority on our junior and high school and high schools. And then we have the elementary schools. Some of them are great, that are functioning and firing in all cylinders and doing some really great stuff. One of them we're really struggling with, so we're leaning into that one a lot. We have 2 strong school board members that we were able to get elected. We have one that's not quite as strong.
Karen Frost said that local supporters of LGBTQ rights are antithetical to core American values. She also claimed that local leftists were harassing her.
We do have a very vocal It's a small but very vocal group here in Santa Clarita that doxes us, follows us, shows up at school board meetings, can rally the troops. So we do have that element here in Santa Clarita too. They are strong proponents of I don't know, everything that's antithetical to, the core American values, and seem to just want to destroy rather than build anything up. So yeah, we do have that here in Santa Clarita. Um, you know, Within my chapter, we have people that just, kind of keep an ear on what they are saying and what they're doing. I've chosen, personally, they've attacked me, they've tried to dox me, they've followed me, they say all kinds of things about me. And I just choose to not let any of those arrows land. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know what I stand for. I know what the organization stands for. I know what we're advocating for. So I choose not to listen to it. We only have this much bandwidth, and I just.
Frost also defended removing books from school libraries, part of a national push by Moms for Liberty to ban books featuring LGBTQ plus characters, discussions of race, and other marginalized perspectives from public schools.
We have, the messages that we do not believe in book banning. I believe that all books, even the ones that I don't particularly care for, have a right to exist. But I believe firmly that when my children are in a library at their school where I'm not there to be able to guide them in their selection process, certain books do not belong on our school campuses. And I will fight like a mother. There may be some books in question that may be appropriate for a 9th through 12th grader, and we can have those conversations about whether certain books like The Kite Runner that I read, it's a beautiful book that has a very graphic scene, or The Color Purple is another book that is a beautiful book that has a very graphic scene in it. Is that appropriate for 11th and 12th graders? Maybe so. We can have that conversation. Is it appropriate for 5th and 6th graders? Absolutely not. So we just need to use common sense about what materials are in our kids' libraries, give parents the freedom to get what they want for their kids in their own homes, but don't expose my children to materials that are not able to be read aloud in an environment where I cannot help them with the selection process.
Karen Frost said that PTAs in Santa Clarita had been captured by progressive parents, and that PTA members are some of Moms for Liberty's strongest opponents.
So we have found that the PTAs in our local community have unfortunately been a little bit captured. So the progressive moms that are really advocating for the books in the libraries and for transitioning their kids, and those are the ones that have joined PTA in our community. So we haven't worked real closely.
The conservative-led town hall highlighted the deepening divide over LGBTQ rights and the role of conservative advocacy groups like Moms for Liberty in shaping education policy in Los Angeles County public schools. The event also underscored the broader national debate over the influence of far-right groups, the push for book bans, and the tension between state laws and federal policy.